So let's move on to our final panel discussion, equally creative, where we have the experts sharing their opinions on a new direction, moving towards smart designs and products. So let me introduce our eminent panel. The session is being moderated by Deben, Moza, Executive Director, Head of Project Management Services, Knight Frank, India. Mr. Moza has over 2 decades of professional experience in architecture, construction, project management, and corporate relocations. He has successfully delivered projects across multiple sectors that include hospitality, residential, commercial, retail, and holds key proficiency in project management, construction management, and architecture and workplace strategy. Mr. Moza, a very warm welcome to you. Let me now introduce our speakers of this session in an alphabetical order. We have with us Mr. J.P. Agrawal, Director Agrawal and Agrawal Architects, winner of some of the most prestigious awards in the architectural arena. Architect J.P. Agrawal, during his practice of more than 27 years, has completed more than 400 projects across India, including IT infrastructure, housing and malls, as well as institutional, hospitality and industrial projects. Our next panel member, let me introduce Ms. Namrata Mehra, Head of Design and Customer Centricity, Vikhroli, Lead Sustainability for Godrej Products, for Godrej Properties. Ms. Namrata Mehra works at the intersection of marketing, brand design, customer centricity, and sustainability to deliver tangible value and meaningful delight for all the customers across the real estate lifecycle. She was responsible for leading the GPL Design Studio from 2015 through 2019 before pivoting to lead CSR and sustainability for Godrej Properties. Our next eminent panel member, let me introduce Ms. Shakuntala Ghosh, Principal Architect and Partner at Ghosh, Bose and Associates and Chairperson IGBC Kolkata Chapter. Environmentally sustainable architecture is a major focus of Ms. Ghosh's work, and she has been actively involved with the green building movement since its inception. She is on the Technical Advisory Committee on National Rating System for Green Buildings by MNRE. She is a qualified trainer and evaluator for GRIA and an IGBC accredited professional. She is an empaneled architect with the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, which has initiated the energy conservation in building code and has been designated as master trainer for improving understanding and promotion of ECBC. Our next panel member, let me introduce Dr. Shireesh Pankaj, General Manager, Research and Innovation at Ashirvad. Mr. Shireesh Pankaj is a Six Sigma certified professional with 14+ years of experience in research and application development, focused on polymers and nanocomposites. Dr. Shireesh is a published scientist and has a long list of patents under his belt. He had led corporate research and technology projects with global cross-functional teams for cost out, new technology introduction, and new product development. He has worked earlier with Eaton, ClearEdge, and Renaissance. Our next panel member, let me introduce Mr. Vincent Pinto, Senior Vice President, Schindler, India. A seasoned business leader with over 21 years of experience, Mr. Pinto is a highly passionate, self-driven professional and comes with a diverse experience in service, business operations, and sales management. So this is our eminent panel. And let me now hand it over to our moderator of the session, Mr. Deben Moza, to take forward the conversation.
Thank you, Sapna, and good afternoon to all of you. It's a privilege to be moderating this panel. Just before I logged in, I realized there was a date, 24th March 2020. So 2 years and 2 days back, we went for the first lockdown without knowing what we're getting into. And we've survived for 2 years, and it's a great achievement, and we're still battling our way out. To start with this panel discussion, I came across a song by Pete Seeger, and few lines they go by, if it can't be reduced, reused, repaired, rebuilt, refurbished, refinished, resold, recycled, or composted, then it should be restricted, redesigned, or removed from production. For majority of us, COVID-19 is the biggest global event of our lifetimes. It has challenged us. it has changed our behavior and altered our perspectives. We have lost our trust in public space, and at the same time, we have been introduced to healthier habits, gained more appreciation for the environment, and have realized a certain desire to connect with others as much, as often as possible. There's a constant ringing in the air about what to expect from this new normal. Our attitude and behaviors are evolving at a rapid pace, forcing a hurried response from organizations and economies alike. The behaviors we build and the technologies we adopt during this time are going to shape our lives in the way we can't yet imagine. How will that affect the way we design, communicate, build, and create spaces that people feel confident coming back, families feel safe? So we are learning how to build new environment that can successfully respond to this crisis. We're looking past the current pandemic for long-term solutions that will drive healthier buildings and happier occupants far beyond the new normal. A new direction moving towards smart design and products. This is the topic of our panel discussion, and we have eminent speakers who are going to share their views, which are going to benefit our audiences and give the insight of what's happening in the world. So I'll start my first question with Mr. Agrawal. The pandemic and the climate crisis have challenged us to redefine the way we design and rethink them through the lens of human experience. Tell us about the new design trends that are being considered. This question is for all the panelists. I'll go sequentially. Each panelist, I would request, should sort of answer this in 2 minutes because I have to complete this whole discussion in 60 minutes with the questions from the audiences. So I'll start with Mr. Agrawal.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Post-pandemic, even for, you can say, lower MIG housing, we are finding a change in the brief and design. The first and foremost, most pertinent change in the brief from the client side, that instead of 2-bedroom, nowadays people are looking for 3-bedroom house, right? So spacious house is a requirement, no doubt, from the flat buyers or the who are seeking the new house. But for me, I look at the whole thing in a different perspective. It is not about adding 1 bedroom. It is about the new awareness which has occurred now, or rather is now becoming a kind of awareness scenario in which the living condition of the house are becoming more important for everybody. It means that earlier we used to somehow ignore the living condition of the house, or particularly in the apartments, more particularly in the apartments. Now, people used to ignore, for an example, the importance of outdoor living or other openness within the house. For an example, in Mumbai, you'll find most of the balconies got covered. People used to enclose it in the living room. So they want the bigger living room, and there was no importance of a balcony. And nowadays, people have realized the importance of balcony, and they want a bigger balcony. They say that, okay, it is the 4-feet balcony, I can't sit and have a tea. Now, similarly, in a housing complex, people never realize the value of a community facilities and the large openness within the community living space. That used to be for the children's. Now they have realized that no, this is there for everybody. So there's a lot of mental, psychological change post-pandemic over here. And now we look at something beyond. look at the scenario of war, whenever I look at the Ukraine pictures on the screen, on the TV screen, I always feel that something like that even we can face tomorrow. And it's a prolonged scenario again in which we face the more harsh conditions. For an example, I saw in Singapore a bomb shelter in every house, an RCC room in every apartment, and it was compulsory. It is, I don't know about today. This I observed about almost 15 years back. So, what I feel that for the time being, the pandemic is over. We do not know whether it is going to prolong, whether it is going to be the same infectious, or what next will come. Whether we are going to encounter more infectious disease or some of a disease of a different nature, or the challenges of a different nature. So considering the overall scenario, I personally believe that we need to collectively rethink on this particular challenge, and the architects must think in a different manner for the future houses.
Thank you. I'll move to Namrata now.
I think with the pandemic, the new normal, and we've gotten so completely overused with that phrase. But when folks stayed at home, the center of the world sort of constricted to how you lived. And to just sort of echo what we've been talking about and what I believe Mr. Agrawal also referred to, it made us reevaluate how we live. So whether it spoke about how multiple demographics, multiple ages use the same space, certain unmet needs, for example, acoustics, if a child is studying compared to grandparents wanting to watch TV, someone cooking in the kitchen, these things was oftentimes sequential over the course of the day. And with the pandemic, we felt that a lot of us, and these are clear trends, we saw increased across our portfolio, we saw increased requirement for larger apartments. People didn't typically go from 2 to 3 because share of wallet, all of those things matter. They went from 2 to 2.5. But the other sort of insights landed up being a lot more qualitative. And wall thicknesses have oftentimes reduced over the past years. There is very little insulation, door ceilings, multi-use spaces. Yes, balconies as outdoor connects became important. So our entire lens to the world sort of constricted and shrank to our homes. And that was an opportunity for a lot of our customers, and a lot of research that we've done in the past sort of year and a half has underscored it for us, that very interesting insights or user case insights came about from how people actually use their space or would like to use their space. And a lot of that has already been integrated and is being integrated as we speak across the product portfolio. So hopefully very interesting sort of newer trends to come. But yes, when you sort of shrink your world, oftentimes it expands you in terms of, or mandates a certain level of thinking that I do believe that for all of us in the profession was much welcome. The need to reimagine a home as the center of one's world rather than as just one more space that we occupy.
Thanks. Quickly move to Shakuntala.
Good evening, everyone. Our firm deals more with commercial and office spaces, so I'm going to come at it from that angle. And what we have seen is the pandemic has completely changed our maybe 100-year-old concept of work and of how we work, where we work. This thing has been totally upended in the last 2 years. And it's interesting because project which was started just say before the pandemic hit, it was looking one way. And then as the pandemic kind of, there was the first wave and second wave, and it looked like now we're going to have to live with this. It totally changed the program. So what we would originally have is, we are going to seat so many people in this much space. It is now, very digital hybrid kind of a situation we're looking at, whereby, say, somebody would have an app and they would not have a fixed place in that office, but they'd book their desk for the day, maybe twice or thrice a week, and they book it through that app, and that app controls their entire interface. We looked at completely reworking the services so that it becomes touch-free and hygienic. For example, the lifts, the elevators don't have any buttons. You will key in on your app which floor you're going to go, and you'll be told, go to elevator number such and such and such and such. And in every aspect, we have actually, we do green buildings, so they're already platinum rated, gold rated. And for these buildings, the HVAC systems, the daylighting systems are also very advanced. So we did not have to do much changes. But the important thing post-COVID is ventilation and fresh air in HVAC systems. They need to be completely relooked at, and you have to put in the filters and all in place, which we had. In facades, you have to have more openable panels than that was there previously as per fire norms. So these are just, some of the things. Even in the washrooms, it has to be a completely touch-free as far as possible experience. So in all these ways, COVID has really impacted the way, it's given us a new way to look at, and that is the way going forward, I think. Zoom, like the platform we are working on now, it was there, but it kickstarted, the pandemic kickstarted the wide schools. So a lot of building technologies and building management systems were already in place, but now it has just kickstarted it, and we are using it on a very regular and integrated manner.
Thanks so much. Quickly move to Shireesh.
Thanks, Deben, and good evening to all. So my views are more towards the suppliers to construction companies. So if you're looking at construction companies, there are significant shifts and which they are preparing for post-pandemic reality. So say, for example, increasing productivity. So looking at it, there was a shortfall of 30 to 40% on labor side. And companies are taking measures to improve productivity of labor through different ways of construction, like modular constructions or prefab. And they're also looking at 3D printing of the houses. And recently, there are so many videos which are floating around on YouTube. And many houses have been constructed in India also through 3D printing. So that's one of the trends which we are seeing. Then second is on the ensuring safety part. So a lot of investments are made on PPEs as well as on-site testing equipment by the realtors. So to have the better product, and it could be tested in the shortest possible time. The third area is on the products and designs. So people have moved to home office concepts. They are looking for DIY kind of things. Say, for example, in plumbing sector itself. If you're looking at plumbing, you need to call a plumber to fix all the things. But now people are looking for DIY things, so which can be fixed by themselves because they are not liking more laborers to enter into their houses, etc. And primarily, they are thinking about safety, health, less labor-intensive installations, low noise, of course, which one of my co-panelists has also talked about, acoustics part. So not only on the construction itself, they are looking at when, say, for example, usage of pipes or when the water flows through pipes, it's really annoying. So those kind of products they are looking at, so low noise kind of things. And of course, sustainability is also one of the areas. Now, going digital, as again, one of my co-panelists talked about. So people are looking for digital home automation. Along with that, they are looking for prognostics, diagnostics approach. So if any failures is happening, people should be knowing about it. And if it's going to fail, then they can take proper measures. So that's what we are seeing. And even construction companies are thinking a lot about it. And there are significant shifts which are getting made in this.
So it's interesting you spoke about, modular or offsite construction and 3D printing and offsite prefabrication thing. In India, everybody is concerned about the cost first, then the final product. So do you think with these kind of technologies coming in, the developers would be under pressure to deliver the product because there's a pressure of pricing also? So would they be able to deliver with these kind of technologies coming into place?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll give you one very interesting example of Rajiv Gandhi Housing Society in Bangalore. That's a government organization, and the entire construction is modular.
Right.
So they have done the entire offsite constructions, took it to the site, and they built it. The production cost was about 30% lower as compared to the conventionals. So if you are looking at steel pricing, if you're looking at the waste which is getting generated for on-site installations, if you're looking at factory constructions. So factory labor is much cheaper as compared to the on-site labor. And then it's much faster. So that's what people are, if you look at the total end-to-end cost, it's very well cost effective, lesser wastages. And that's where this entire thing comes into. So even for the plumbing sector, we did a small project with prefabricated shafts. So we built the shafts, all the utility shafts in the factory, and then we installed it at one location. And we found it about 20% cheaper as compared to the on-site construction.
Great, thanks. I think very great insight that the new technology is not expensive, so you can actually save the money. So I'll quickly move to Vincent. You represent Schindler. How has pandemic changed your approach in terms of your product design and the demands from the client? And because I think elevators are a contained unit, right? And the fear, and still we have a lot of buildings. If we go, there are restrictions of number of people who can occupy the lifts. So, and people have come up with very innovative solutions like using toothpicks to press the button, or there were certain products in the market. How has Schindler relooked at the whole design thing, keeping in mind the challenges of contamination of a virus, because it's a 3 feet or 4 feet by 4 feet contained unit?
Thanks, Mr. Moza, for the question. So, from an E&E perspective, elevator and escalator industry perspective, with pandemic, there has been a change in the way elevators are used. Importance on hygiene, like you just mentioned, number of people, restricting the number of people, sensitive to touch, all this has brought in a little bit more discipline, I would say. So if I just touch upon one aspect of less crowding in the car, when I use the word car, it means the elevator, and we try to understand the implication of this one change in our behavior, it means a lot to the industry and the building. Now, in an existing building where you cannot change much of the thing, the number of elevators remain the same. You cannot make them bigger overnight. It puts a lot of more pressure on the traffic management, because a lift, you may have 2, 3, 4 elevators in your building, which have been designed keeping in mind the traffic condition, population of the building. All of a sudden, because of this change in behavior of less crowding in the car, in the elevator, availability of elevator or waiting time has suddenly increased. And this leads to more constant usage of the same elevator which was available. And this means higher wear and tear, higher maintenance. Now, if you pause here and go to the new buildings, what does it do on the new building design? So now the architects and builder communities are forced more to look at bigger shafts or more number of lifts to handle the same population. Unfortunately, till now, a bigger lift means more carrying capacity, which actually is not true, keeping this perspective in mind, because we are just saying we need bigger lifts for social distancing and not necessarily more capacity.
Right.
So our designs have not yet changed because the codes have not changed. The codes govern the number of capacity and the carpet area of a lift. So this has to go through a change, bringing in the aspect of social distancing, and then everything else will. The second complication it will bring in is, even if you have bigger lift, how will you actually control people not going inside it? Because as soon as the lift comes, all the people standing in the lobby will rush towards it, you know, and then you have to put signages saying not more than 2, not more than 5, not more than 10. There is a need here for an advanced traffic management system which will allocate people in different lifts rather than leave it to the people's choice. And this technology exists long back. We are not inventing it now, but it already exists. I see that this will come more and more into use even in residential. Already it is very much used in commercial to manage traffic, but now it finds a new application here from a social distancing aspect.
Right.
Other than this, solutions like clean mobility solution or touchless solution, like you said, I don't have to really touch the button to give a call. So the button is now not in the car, not on the lobby, but it's in my hand. My mobile becomes a new call button for my elevator. And this is where, you know, Schindler is also focusing and bringing this more and more solutions in the market. So hopefully the upcoming norms helps us and the industry towards moving to a bigger elevator, safer elevator, socially distant elevator. So that's my perspective.
Just a question out of curiosity in terms of, are you saying that, you know, there are new buildings where you come up with the larger shafts or the new lifts? Have you seen a change or trend where, you know, residential or commercial existing buildings are coming for upgrades where with the touchless and or voice recognition and all those technologies which are available, so that, you know, they can minimize the risk of contamination through touch?
Absolutely. So with the pandemic, you know, as soon as this became the need, we were also ready with the solution. So although there were already solutions which existed for my port technology where you can convert your mobile phone into a call button, but for smaller buildings, for smaller requirements, you had to convert the existing technology which exists in the building to fit into these new norms. And there were a lot of requests. You will see many buildings already equipped with a touchless type of a solution where using a QR code, you can generate a call from your mobile, you know, and this was more and more asked for from an industry point of view.
Right. Thank you so much. Coming back to Mr. Agrawal, you know, Shireesh touched upon the new construction techniques or technologies being adopted. Are you witnessing that trends with your clients, maybe corporates, developers, or you know, residential users? Are you witnessing the change in trend of construction, or are we still adopting the old means of construction?
Give me a moment, sir. Sir will be back.
Okay. So, okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Are you back, Mr. Agrawal?
Yes, I'm back. Yeah.
Okay. Should I repeat the question?
Please, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Shireesh spoke about the new construction trends. You know, we're talking about off-site construction, prefabrication, you know, 3D printing. So all these new construction technologies are there. I have two questions. Do we have required skill sets, or do we have experts to carry out this kind of a construction? And are clients open to these new ideas of construction?
I would put it this way, that the requirement of new technology is driven by the certain necessities. For example, shortage of labor, shortage of manpower, increasing cost of manpower. So in this scenario, we are adopting a different technology. For an example, aluminum shuttering, which we know it as a Maiwan, in which the construction can be much faster. I'm not sure about the 3D printing technology picking up for the high-rise building at least. And I'm not a big fan of such technology. And I think that it will have its own restricted use. People tried the steel construction also, but I think in India, we are not at a stage where we have to do the high-rise multi-storied buildings with the complete steel or that kind of a scenario. So in future, the technology, whatever the technology will come with respect to the cost. The cost would be the guiding factor, and the labor-intensive construction will be the deteriorating factor, detrimental factor. So these two aspects will govern the new technology in future.
Thank you so much. Coming to Shakuntala, everyone is talking about environmental social governance, better known as ESG. News stories, blog posts, investment conversations, disclosure reports. Not a day goes by without these latest topics and issues being raised, challenged, debated, and discussed. Is ESG just a buzzword, or there's an awareness about it amongst the corporates and developers?
Well, you know, trends, they start out as buzzwords and then it gets traction and then it becomes widespread and in use. And, you know, when I was thinking about today's topic, this smart design and smart anything, we put it for everything, smart city, smart TV, smart home, everything is smart. But before something is smart, it has to be good. So because people just think that if I throw technology at something, it suddenly, this box is going to become a magic green box and smart box and whatever. So we have, one has to look at what is beyond the parameters of our site and our plot. And I find this very much lacking, even in the awards which were just held, these realty awards. So it's like my site is an island, and what is outside that, nobody knows. So I can have the smartest, most fantastic 30-story smart building, very luxurious, all amenities. But if it is in a low-rise neighborhood, well-knit neighborhood with 2- and 3-story buildings, and it's completely disrupting that fabric, then we really have to ask ourselves that what is smart and what is good. And we can see it all around in all the neighborhoods that we are living in. It's changing beyond recognition. So there has to be, it's not from the municipality alone, they are getting their sanction fees. They are happy. The realtors selling some Singapore dream, they are happy. Everyone is happy. But we are ruining our cities forever. So I think that there is a consciousness that we have to look beyond our little bubble and see what's happening outside. And the IGBC rating systems, they do this. They look at context. Where are you building? What is the overall impact of this development? So I think that has to really come to the fore, because we have a very short span of time in our life. We have about 10 years before things are going to go irretrievably downhill. So this is going to gather momentum, and over the next few years, I'm certain that it is going to be front and center. And we have to rethink the way we are doing things, because everyone here is part of the problem. We are part of the construction industry, which is causing so much pollution. India is got the rank of 5th in the world in terms of air pollution. I think ahead is just Pakistan, Bangladesh, Chad, and some such. So it's not a happy place to be. And something needs to happen now. And this kind of forum is the way that we all have to make money. We all have to exist. But beyond that, that awareness has to be there, that what am I part of, that larger thing, and how does it affect others? And I think that is kicking in now.
Great. Namrata, your views on this? ESG, sustainability?
I'm going to take
I think
ESG.
that's the core. Godrej have been pioneers in sustainability and ESG. So
Thanks, Deben. And I believe ESG is one of the most sort of easily misunderstood things in the industry. And while, yes, we've seen a lot of investor focus on that, if you just take a step back, fundamentally, it talks about environmental, social, and governance standards. So,
okay.
yes, we've been at the forefront of this process. And the reason we do this is because across asset classes, across sort of the entire development value chain, there's a sustained focus on ESG. There's focus from the investors. The commercial sort of space is quite specific. If you talk specifically about real estate developers, there is a benchmark called the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark. It's called GRISB. And most large developers will have to fill in a complete assessment scorecard. The scorecard is consistent across all geographies, whether it's Asia, North America, Japan, and your ratings are put out year on year. We've sort of seen, thankfully, over the past 2 years, an upswing in our ratings. We were global sector leaders for listed residential real estate. And the reason I feel that putting yourself up against benchmarks is important is because while I can say that the past 2 years we've been sector leaders, the journey for us has been 8 or 9 years long. We started this process in 2013. And the reason we did so, and I can honestly say our scores were half then. The reason we say this is because you have to humbly look at the entirety of your entire value chain and operations. And you have to set yourself benchmarks rather than self-assessing where you should be spending energy, time, engagement. Because real estate is a very evolved and large, complicated series of interconnected units, and stakeholders include everybody from stakeholders, our worker chain, our investors, communities, and a whole host of participants to this. So chiefly for us, when we look at environment, we look at water, waste, emissions. Those three are clear parameters, and the parameters remain consistent. Whether we talk from a product perspective, yes, IGBC green homes for certification, if I'm talking specifically residential, and green societies, which is newer mandate for all our developments to ensure that the infrastructure that a developer puts together prior to selling it to a customer and handing it over to a society is taken care of in the facilities management for the entire duration of the life cycle. So those things are also important because just putting in infrastructure, which responsible architects, construction managers can do, may not necessarily translate to its actual usage to a customer. From an environmental aspect, we also look at the same things of water, waste, and emissions through the operational cycle, and all of it is very data managed and quantitative. We don't want to just plant trees and say, great, we planted trees. We have clear metrics. We have to show year-on-year improvement. We have project-driven, company-wide ESG data, dashboards, which are consistent across board. And our job is to make sure that we are doing something, like Shakuntala mentioned, which is for sectoral improvement in India. The the IPCC report that comes out to combat climate change lists real estate as one of the largest sort of contributors and emitters, specifically in tune of emissions. 39% of global emissions come from the real estate sector. Only 11% of those are at a product stage, and about 28% of them in the operation stage. So as responsible folks, we have to impact operation stage, and that's where our focus the last couple of years has been. That brings me to the social sector. Worker welfare is important. While all of us, are happy to look at worker productivity as an indicator of how well a site is doing, why is it that in our country it is a secondary migrant population challenge? And those of us who are from this sector, I'm sure COVID has been exceedingly heartrending looking at the sort of migration that we have all seen. So honestly, to take a step back and say, what are we doing? So we mandate and maintain building and other construction workers, which are called BOCW cards for all our workers. This unlocks a host of construction linked funds. Every developer pays a 1% cess. That 1% cess goes into a statewide coffer. There is 40,000 crores aggregated BOCW funds unspent in our country. And when the government announced a host of measures, such as the 5,000, payment that was one-time payment to every construction worker, only about 33% of those workers availed those funds because they didn't have the applicable card. So one of the things as responsible practitioners, I would urge all of you to do is, any site that you're at, can you please check if your workers have the ability to access social protection and benefits? Because if they do, the sort of benefits are, and I can talk about it because I believe this is really important for us sectorally, but for their kids' education, for someone's death not on a construction site, anything to do with social protection is met through these schemes, and it is up to us to unlock value. From a governance perspective, ensuring that the sites that you have are health and occupational safety certified under 45,001 and environmental management system certified under 15,001. So if we're looking at ESG, yes, E, S, and G, and each of them have quantifiable data-driven parameters where it is up to us to show year-on-year improvement and make it an integral part of how we approach our work in the sector. I hope that helps.
Oh, great. Thanks so much. I was listening to you, and whilst we talk about ESG, we talk about sustainability, there's something which is being widely discussed, which is because sustainability, or your LEED rating or IGBC rating, it normally deals with the material and the methodology of construction.
Right.
So during pandemic, we realized that there's something called wellness, which is equally important because it's about people who are occupying that space or using that space. So what is your take on wellness? I'll start with you and then go to Shakuntala on this.
No, I think it's really relevant. So we started this off on the commercial space, and Shakuntala can speak more about this. So all of our offices from our headquarters at Vikhroli, including every sort of regional office across the country, the first thing we did in COVID was to sort of almost internally check all systems, whether there were air filtration that had to be upgraded or thermal comfort or multiple such parameters. And IGBC has a health and wellness rating as well. So while we can check it internally, we also went and secured certifications for that. IGBC will soon or shortly announce the same thing for residential buildings. A couple of our projects are part of pilot studies to ensure that data goes to them. Nice to have some kids on the chat as well. I think we're doing it for them. And I think with the sort of work that we do, I think it's important to remember that we have to sort of leave something behind for kids as well. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's incredibly relevant. And so health and well-being for sure. And also, I just wanted to share, because, with eminent panelists, it's important to do so. We did life cycle analysis for our developments, and life cycle analysis is cradle to a grave or cradle to gate. As developers, we typically do it from cradle to gate. And what we found is very, very interesting sort of product level metrics. These are emission factors. So typically for developers, think about it. We purchase quantity X of a particular material, we multiply it with the emission factor of that material, and we get an emission score. So over the past year, we've mapped the emission score of each and every project across our entire portfolio with some tremendous insights, which we are sharing with our partners across aluminum windows, across cement, steel, a host of such things. Because I do think that one key aspect that we have found missing is more engaged interfaces with the supply chain. And our mandate for this coming FY is very much to focus on our supply chain. We have about 218 suppliers mapped across our entire portfolio. We've reached out to them. They were kind enough to fill in a self-assessment. So now we have ESG scores for every supplier who works for Godrej Properties with Godrej Properties. And we've identified certain lacuna areas that we believe could help at an ecosystem level. So whether it's Shireesh or Vincent, perhaps you're looking at what the life cycle analysis of the components that you bring to market are, and to know predominantly what emission factors are, so that when we speak about sustainability, we talk about things that we can map, measure, and better on, and we make it quantifiable and real. And that's the only way we can bring change.
Great, thanks so much. Shakuntala, quick word on wellness.
Yes, so I think wellness, it's not something which will be added on afterwards. If we start out, like I said, with the design, which is going towards platinum or something like that, a lot of these factors will already be inbuilt. Things like access to daylight, access to good quality air, a lot of it is already inbuilt. And after that, getting the wellness rating is just, it's very easy, one can say. So that would be the start. And I would just say one thing to all the listeners is what is important is the integrated design, this aspect. It's something we as a company for the last 60 years, we have done this interdisciplinary design where the product, where the engineers, the HVAC people, the MEP people, structural engineers, architects, the specifiers, they have to come on a common platform, and realtors should ideally try to avoid parceling it out separately to somebody in Singapore or this part to someone in Canada. I don't think it can really give that integrated final thing that we are looking for, the product that we are looking for. So the design process has to be integrated to get these outcomes. And it has to be very close. Like previously, the architect would do something, nice elevation and all that, then the structural designer would just do the structural design, then hand it out to the MEP people and this thing. So that can't happen in a sustainable kind of development that we are looking at going forward.
Thank you so much. Vincent, so we spoke about smart design, and what we didn't sort of talk about much is about smart products. What kind of innovative products Schindler is coming up with in terms of technology?
We at Schindler have always been keen on innovation. We have seen a series of new technology always introduced. And this innovation is always keeping the customer in center as a focal point for our development. So if I talk about Schindler Ahead as an IoT-based smart elevator that can not only continuously talk back to our experts by sending the signals back from your elevator, but also trying to find resolution of the problems which are already occurring at site. What does this do to the end customer is improve reliability, and before even there is a breakdown, this has been captured back at our technical experts and it is being fixed. So this connectivity which we bring in improves reliability, improves the availability of elevator at site, and improves the experience that the customers are going through. That's one. Second, if I link back to now plan and design, that means in the design phase, every architect wants to have that creativity brought out in his or her project. And that's where our plan and design tool helps it to be much more easier, where it gives the entire range of product and the configurations available, taking very, very minimum inputs from a building perspective and trying to give all the outputs based on traffic, based on modeling, and the renderings, everything. So for an architect, it's like life made easy, because they don't still need to rely on what and when elevator and escalator industry specialist is trying to tell them, but everything is on their fingertip. So the response time is much better. All the rendering and modeling is available. If we
Thank you so
talk
much.
about,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. If we talk about destination control, I also spoke about it earlier. Schindler Port technology includes a transit management solution, which helps not only touchless solution, but it also is an advanced traffic management tool which can personalize the experience. So this is one more add-on, and it's a two-way communication. Most of the time, most of the building, you will see elevators only one way. This is a two-way communication which can be there between an elevator and a user. Over and above this, we talk about innovation in the digital media solution, where you can turn your elevators into a communication platform. There are door shows, there are smart mirrors, media screen. So all this displaying engaging media-centric content for the passengers to keep them busy, to keep them engaged, plus to also generate new revenue stream from the elevator space which you have. So all these are new forms of technology which exist and which Schindler brings into the market in every part of the world.
Thank you so much. We don't have much time. I think we have some questions from the audience, which Sapna would ask. Very quickly, just 30 seconds for each panelist. What are the takeaways that you want audience to get benefited out of this panel discussion? I'll start with Shireesh.
Yeah, so from this discussion, I would say there are new ways of construction which is coming up. There are new products which should, there is need of new products which should be safer, more sustainable, and where Namrata left, that's where we should have the life cycle analysis also done for every product. There are needs and there should be more mandates which should be coming up for more sustainable product like green leaf certification, etc. Or there should be forums which should advocate about usage of recyclates in our construction industries. That's my take on it. And of course, we should think about health. So, say for example, water. If you are looking at different products which are carrying water, it should be safer. We should not be using any VOCs there. We should not be using any heavy metals like lead, tin, etc. in our constructions, be it the hardcore construction or the products itself. That's my view on it.
Thanks. Quickly to Mr. Agrawal, 30 seconds takeaways for the audience.
I think we need to think more boldly and in a dynamic manner for the futuristic designs of the house, more particularly to make it sustainable and energy conscious. We need to look at the living conditions in a different manner than just the utility. It is more about the living environment than just the utility.
Thank you. Namrata?
I think each of us while we're doing what we're doing, I think if each of us could look at a wicked problem. So for example, and get our hands dirty. So honestly speaking, construction and demolition waste in our country is a big problem. There are no clear metrics. The last research that any of you will be able to find is dated 2001, which has clear sort of quantifiable data for you to use. So getting together with people who know what they're doing, who've had this sort of experience across sites, initiating an ecosystem-wide approach. So we are working with our developer partners across several sites, so several geographies, several developer partners. We figured out a common mapping solution. We figured out that we need to quantify, qualify, make the systems, and figure out exactly what happens to construction and demolition waste once we get it from a supplier and before we hand over and deliver a building. And if we have real information, then the sort of recycling and reuse and other sort of channels that open up are dependent on this level of on-ground data. So we reached out to our university partners in IIT Tirupati first. And while we had great discussions, I mean, they actually came back to us saying that, you need to talk to people who know the industry better, and you'll be able to potentially set something like this up. And which we did, which was very helpful. And I'm hoping in about a year or so, about 9 months to a year, that we would be able to take out an industry level document and paper that could be beneficial to the entire sort of real estate ecosystem. And we look forward to connecting with players and partners who are serious about making sustainability happen for our country, because I do think that we're at the cusp of several things, whether it's indications in the budget, whether it's sort of investments that you see in electric vehicle infrastructure, whether it's sort of governmental mandates. And let's be very honest, if you fill in everything from MOEF guidelines, you're guaranteed an IGBC base level certification. So it isn't voluntary anymore. I do believe there are a lot of mandates, excellent mandates that are happening. And the other sort of necessity that I would want to leave, all of us as a point to think about is that real estate plugs into city level infrastructure. So the way cities also evolve is beneficial. And if we can sort of leverage each other, work that's happening at a city level, as well as our sort of connect points, because customers are a lot more interested. They're also very well read. And from our part, I think we will continuously want to over educate them to the point that, you should have a customer come to you and ask, what are the resilience planning measures, not sustainability measures alone, that this building has? Given that Mumbai floods, given that extreme weather incidents are happening at an alarming frequency, the sort of customer that we should all be building for is the person who can come and ask these questions. And as an industry, we should have robust answers.
Thank you so much, Vincent. I have just 1 minute left. Vincent, quick word from you, and then I'll move to Shakuntala.
Yes, I'll keep it short. I would say, no matter what building segment we are talking about, residential, commercial, hotel, retail, explore more from a technology point of view, what the elevators or escalators can do for you. It's no longer just a steel box moving up and down. We are happy to shape up the solutions to meet your requirement. And from a sustainability point of view, elevators are really, I'm sorry to use the word again, smart. The recyclable material used is high. The energy conservation in this topic is very, very sensitive. And with technology, the machines and everything is getting smaller, which leads to conservation again. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thanks. Shakuntala.
Yeah, so very briefly, I just have 5 things to say. Short sentences. And first, I would say that we all need to be mindful in each aspect of our life and what we do. How does it impact the larger ecosystem? We have to move towards net zero energy, meaning taking no power from the grid, getting to renewables, and we can do that absolutely with help from municipal authorities. Number 3 is net zero water, taking no fresh potable water for our developments. Number 4 is net zero waste. Nothing goes to the landfill. That's the goal. That's where we need to go. So to end, I would just like to say, let's all get smart.
Great. So I have final few words before I hand it over to Sapna. I think the coronavirus has reminded us that we can see many challenges coming if we pay attention. It's not that it has suddenly happened. We've been getting indications, different kind of viruses coming in, but we didn't pay attention, and we should listen to the experts. We have the experts on the panel. We can't wait until we are overwhelmed, and we need to be proactive, not reactive. So do we want our response to be a flat-footed one? I think no. So let's learn from this tragedy and find a silver lining. So my request to all the people who are listening to this panel discussion, take the key lessons from this panel discussion and you can reach out to anybody for any support or help. And I think most of us would be happy to help. And if you have any questions after this panel discussion, please reach out to Sapna for that. Over to you, Sapna.
Yes, we have lots of questions, but Mr. Moza, you heard all the panel members, what they had to say, and they come with their own expertise and domain. You are someone who is at the intersection of product manufacturers, the designers, and the development. How do we make our buildings future ready? We have already, maybe even disaster resilient, but how do we make them future ready?
See, I think what most of my fellow panelists have said, it's common sense, design with common sense. I think, I'm sure there are many architects here in the audience and in the panel. I'm also an architect. I think what we have done, we had some great principles of design and architecture in India, which somehow we just forgot, and we blindly followed what West followed. The design methodology or ideology in the West is very different from India because of the climate, because of how we behave and how we act. So I think, as I said, let's learn from this pandemic. Let's create sustainable buildings. Let's care about our environment. I think what we just got in last 2 years is then the nature has given us back what we've been sort of doing to nature for last century, at least 1 century, I can say, because almost 100 years back we had a plague as pandemic, and we haven't learned from that. So we're just getting another alarm. So let's care for our nature. Let's look for sustainable development, preserve our energy, aim for net zero emissions. I think then we can have a decent living on this planet.
Yeah, main takeaway, I think what you said is just designed with common sense. It's and as you mentioned that Western world is different, our needs are different, our lifestyle is different, our climate is different. So let's not copy the West, but
Yeah. In fact, I was listening to one architect a couple of days back. So the analogy was we create a problem. So we're creating a glass box that's a building, and then we use 10 times HVAC and electricity to cool it down. So it's like we create a problem and then we try to find a solution for the problem. This is not how we should approach our designs.
That's right. And that brings to the question which we have here is smart sustainable? So goes to the entire panel, I guess, Mr. Moza.
Yeah, I think let's start with Shakuntala. She's only the unmuted panelist right now, and Mr. Agrawal is also
unmuted.
there.
Okay, sorry.
No, one sentence.
No, I'm not muted.
Yeah.
I'm not muted.
No,
I'm
you were the unmuted panelist. That's the reason.
Oh, I'm the unmuted one. Okay. Well, I think smart and sustainable are part of the same coin. They're two parts of the same coin. Because for an urban commercial building to really be sustainable, you need to be smart. You need to use automated building systems, which are going to monitor the air, the water, and it's like actually a living organism. So which monitors the health of the entire building. And for that is where one needs smart. After everything else is done, after the design is done. But I have a bit of this thing to pick with you, Deben, here is that, glass these days are, the characteristics are very advanced. And you will find that the heat transmissibility of this really advanced glass is better than that of brick. So these are technologies which are coming up, but the thing is that you can actually model all this. You can model the performance of the building. That is smart before it's actually built, and find out how much energy it's going to consume, how much water it's going to consume. So there is where the real technology plus points come in.
Sides of the coin. What Ms. Ghosh is saying, there are two sides of the coin, smart and sustainable. Mr. Agrawal, your sentence on is smart sustainable.
I would say what is sustainable, that is only smart. What the thing which is not sustainable, let us not call it smart. You see, the sustainability comes from the honesty, not from the hypocrisy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, very unfortunately, I must say that, we talk about the sustainable things as an architect, we talk about the sustainable design, but it was rightly said by Mr. Moza that, first you use the glass and then try to throw, fight the heat with the HVAC. So the thing is that if at all we become honest to our design and we do what our heart says and not our ego says, So we have to set aside the ego, become honest, and do the good design, sustainable design. Let us respect the nature. I think that is the way it should be.
Okay, that's what Mr. JP Agrawal is saying. Whatever is sustainable in itself is smart. Mr. Pinto, what do you have to say? Is smart sustainable, or if it is sustainable, it is already smart? What do you have to say?
If it is not sustainable, it is not smart. I would say that in the other way around. And I would say today, when any product is coming into the market, it's to address or it's to look at technological advancement. It's to look at what problem it solves, what need it suffices. Similarly, for all of us today, sustainability is the one main cause. So if we have to progress towards that long-term sustainability, I think those products have to be designed in those direction. And that is the bigger cost for each and every industry. Not only this, but every industry has to work towards it.
That's right. So each community. Yeah, that's right. So each industry, each product, each design, it has to work towards sustainability. And as you mentioned, if it is not sustainable, it is not smart. Dr. Shireesh, Pankaj, again, your views as a solution provider, is smart sustainable, or what's your take on it?
I completely resonate with all the co-panelists here, and of course, what you have told a minute back. So it is required, and it is to be done from the design stage itself. So when we start designing the product, no matter how small this product is, it has to be sustainable. We should use proper material. We should use new technologies to reduce the carbon footprint right from the production stage itself. And then when we are putting it together, at least we should think about this entire life cycle, how this product is going into the building, and then how it is performing. And at least we should think about all these calculations and make it more smarter and make it more reachable to the end users.
So that's what Dr. Pankaj is saying. The smartness or the sustainability has to start right from the conceptualization stage of the project, of the product, move on to the life cycle of it, and then the accessibility to the masses for that. Namrata, your last view on smart and sustainable. Is smart sustainable?
I think it needs to be smart and sustainable. And I think everyone across the panels pretty much said the same thing. I think we need to get away from buzzwords. I think that's the need of the hour. I honestly think that if it's measurable, quantifiable, and scalable, we have an economy that's going to urbanize a lot more in the coming 25 to 50 years than it ever has. If we don't get our act together across developers, architects, solution providers, the supply chain, then we risk contributing a lot more negative externalities than actually creating positive cities. And it is up to us what sort of cities we want to live in, what's the air quality we want. But for that, can we please measure things? Can we please think about them? And I'd sort of say, as developers, for us, sustainability starts before design. When land is sort of looked at, if it doesn't have, if you don't do the hydrological surveys and you have a water challenge, then while the project is getting done, there are opportunities to have big picture sort of address some big picture infra level solutions if one is able to do it collectively. So the power of the collective, rather than think about this individually, the power of connecting the dots, not thinking one profession has to sort of deliver this. I don't believe either architects or sort of engineering specialists or urban planners or super supply chain or developers can in isolation
That's right.
address anything.
So what Namrata is saying, connecting the dots, and that's what we have been doing here with the solution providers and the architects and the project management spokesperson and the developer here on the panel. And Namrata, you rightly said, smart and sustainable and quantifiable results. So that is what we should look at. We have lots of other questions, but as Mr. Moza rightly said, we have to take them offline, and our experts are right there to take those queries. But thank you. This was one very interesting session where we spoke about a lot of aspects, not only from design, but development, from technology point of view. A lot more conversations are required, as Mr. Moza also said. We need to keep talking about these things. If we have already been through this pandemic and it has changed our belief system, hopefully in a positive way, and hopefully this change will continue with us, this new thinking. So thank you so much to all our panel members. Thank you, Mr. Moza, for that wonderful
you so
moderation
much.
of the panel. And thanks to all our speakers, Dr. Pankaj, Mr. Vincent Pinto, Ms. Namrata, Mehra, Shakuntala, Ghosh, and architect Agrawal. Thank you for being here with us, joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
Thank you for having us.
Bye-bye.